also focusing definitely on the Achimota forest and the reserve, the decision by government to de-gazette the area as a forest reserve. It's beginning to draw a lot of reactions, including some persons who are in Parliament, MPs, complaining about the decision of government. Well, one of the MPs is the North Tongue Member of Parliament, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who's written extensively about the government decision. We can bring you, obviously, what you see on the screens now as some of the excerpts of what he's been talking about with regard to the decision to actually de-gazette the area. We'll get that for you shortly, but fortunately he's joining us via Zoom right now, so we can have a conversation on this. Thank you so much, for your time. So, first of all, you are asking that government goes ahead to do a comprehensive review where we have laws banning the outright sale or lease of state lands. What do you exactly mean by the points that you were raising earlier?
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you and to all your distinguished viewers. I honestly take the view that 14 years on after the Honorable Dr. Edward Omane and myself went to the Supreme Court seeking to stop the Honorable Jacob Echevilamte, may he rest in peace, seeking to stop the purchase of his bungalow. You will recall that the Supreme Court commended us for our efforts, but unfortunately gave the Honorable Echevilamte the green light to go ahead. So the Honorable Echevilamte had argued that he will convert the bungalow into apartment buildings and will rent it out. 14 years down the lane, that has not happened. It has not served the public good. And as I reflect on the latest development regarding the Achimota forest, and I look at all the other schemes that have been rolled out by many governments purporting to return land to original owners, you will realize that often those so-called returning schemes and sales are not transparent. And that if you really look closely, you will notice that public officials in the chain, the entire chain, from Lands Commission all the way to the very top, the ministerial level, are, beneficiaries eventually. So I take the view that if you look at the state of our development as a country, look, go to the civil service today, you have so many civil servants who have to be ferried from very, very far, distances to work. They don't have adequate supply of bungalows to them. You now have medical doctors who don't have, adequate supply of bungalows. They don't have duty posts, and they have to be ferried from very far afield. It's the same for other professionals, teachers, security personnel, and if you even consider the larger housing deficit, that we have as a country in millions, and then you look at our spatial planning. This is a country that we can't find land for hospitals. We can't find land these days to build schools, sporting facilities, recreation facilities. Our green belts are all going, so we are in such disarray, and it's even an existential threat. So if you have a situation like this, our forebears, had foresight. Even the colonial masters, who we often accuse that they came to plunder, they came to loot, even them, had cause to, buy these banks of land, what we call land banks, and preserve them over decades. Why do we have a situation where the current crop of leaders don't seem to be adding to these land banks? They are not even protecting what we have left, the little we have left. But the depletion continues unabated. That is why I am recommending in this latest article of mine that we need an outright ban on the sale, the lease of state land, and then we must also ban outrightly this business of purporting to be returning the lands to the original owners. Check throughout our recent history, this Fourth Republic, whether the lands really went to the original owners and who ended up being the beneficiary. So, look, it's so murky, and I think that it's even immoral to be a public officer. You are trustee. You are holding all of these state assets in trust. You cannot be selling it, and particularly selling it to yourself, as we were fighting, at the Supreme Court 14 years ago. So I really take the view that the time has come for an outright ban. Let's preserve the little land banks. Indeed, the land minister should immediately publish what we have left. And when the House resumes, this is a course that some of us will be pursuing vigorously. We want a full list of what we have left. The last time we asked the minister in Parliament to tell us how much of state lands have been, disposed of since 2017. He said they didn't have the record because we have new regions and the Lands Commission is going through, a phase to, as it were, set up offices in other regions, and so they could not tell us. I found that really, untenable, but that's what he told us in Parliament. We need to pursue that matter further. We need to have a full publication of what is left, and let's preserve it. Look, we need land banks. We need to protect our green belts. We need to ensure that we have adequate land for planning. Already we are struggling. You heard the president himself state during the State of the Nation address that they are struggling to secure land for Agenda 111. I was in Parliament when the president said that. So how is it that we have a situation where when it's time for national development, national projects, important, projects that we need, as a country to thrive, to develop, we cannot find land. And yet, every now and then, you hear of land sales, you hear of so-called allodia owners being given, land that the state claims that it no longer has use for them. It's a very suspicious, arrangement. The time has come for us to end it and end it once and for all.
Well, interesting submissions you're making there, and in fact there's a need for us to probe further some of the issues that you've been raising in your article as well. We have that on the screens right now. There's the second leg of the issues that you've been raising, talking about the fact that you have sufficient evidence pointing to the fact that some persons within government are actually planning to take advantage of government's decision to sell or to return the land back to its original owners. Are you able to explain the exact point you're trying to make in that article?
If you read my article carefully, and it is a non-partisan article, I'm saying that over the years, there is ample evidence that any time that we have had this return of land to the allodia owners, go back there after a few years, and you will see that public officials, right in the chain, from the Lands Commission all the way to the top, including their cronies and associates, the politicians of that era and the civil servants, the public servants of that era. How is it that they come to own the land that we say that we were returning? And you can talk to. I have done extensive research. I researched on this matter extensively when I had to face off with Jacob Echevilamte 14 years ago at the Supreme Court when I sought to prevent him from buying his bungalow. I argued that if his predecessors had done that, if our forebears were doing that, buying their bungalows, would any be left for current leaders? And I still hold that view, that it is totally immoral, it's unethical for public officials who are holding these assets in trust, presidents, ministers, people at the Lands Commission, to be benefiting from these sales. And when even they claim to be returning the lands to allodia owners, see what happens a few months thereafter. Look,
so this is purely speculation, right?
I'm not speculating. I'm talking about what has become the case. Look, you can go to the Nungwa lands when the Nungwa lands were returned in the late 1990s to the early 2000s. Just go there and find out what has happened. Who are those who own it? Who own large tracts of those lands? Obojo is another example. The civil aviation land, the Lawale. You can go and do your work and find out who have put up.
Yeah, but Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, the point is, if you know these persons, why are you not putting out the names to help the state, at least so Ghanaians will be aware, and then we could fight that process together? Why not putting out the names?
So, first of all, this is a piece to raise awareness and to fundamentally advocate for a ban. We must put on hold, and I want even a permanent hold on this practice of selling state land. Look, all these lands were acquired for good reason. And
yes, but I'm asking a question about why you're not putting out the names.
Look, it is a process. It's a process. And you know that I'm not one to be timid. 14 years ago, when I didn't even come into public office, I went to the Supreme Court with somebody who I was determined to stop, from buying his bungalow. So it is a process. Don't worry at all. This is the first state to raise the matter, and it's a non-partisan advocacy. And I'm not trying to suggest that any party should be absorbed or whatever. This is a national matter. And I think that, look, it gets to a time that we must discuss matters dispassionately, devoid of the cheap partisanship. We should look at what is in the national interest. It's about our survival. We face an existential threat, apart from, all the environmental concerns that have been raised. If you look at how spatial planning, how we cannot develop, transportation is in the mess, healthcare, education, because all our land banks, which we should have protected, we are selling them for cheap under opaque circumstances. So let's put all of these practices hold. Let's have an outright ban. That's where I really want us to focus.
All right, then.
I want us to focus on salvaging the little we have left for now. That is the emergency thing that is required for us. And then later on, we can do a postmortem and see across regimes those who may have benefited. And if we want to retrieve those lands from them, I will be one to support such an exercise.
I'm grateful for your time. That's the Northern Member of Parliament, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Well, Elvis Upon Mensah speaks for a coalition of some 13 groups who are equally adding their voice on this matter. They want government to rescind the EI, which is giving way for a portion of the forest reserve to be giving out. Elvis, thank you for joining us. So you had the Northern MP. His solution to all of this is that we need to outrightly ban the sale of state lands. What's your take on that?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity given. Let me take this opportunity to greet your valuable listeners. Also, definitely, I think I agree with him that I think as a state, we need to take stock of our land banks and come out with a proper guidelines and policies on how we deal with state lands. I think I agree with his proposal.
But for your group, you are equally, for now, for now, you are asking that the EI be revoked. On what grounds are you making such a case?
Also, basically on two grounds. The first one is, it's not by chance that we decided to create Achimota Forest. We created Achimota Forest based upon some circumstances, and we believe those circumstances still are relevant. Achimota Forest actually is the only green belt that we have in Greater Accra, and it plays a very important role in Accra here. One, Accra is a very polluted area. We have a lot of industry. We have a lot of cars that pollute the atmosphere. Achimota forest happens to be the only belt that we have over here that absorbs the carbon. Let me use this one as an example for people to understand what it means. When you go to Western region and Eastern region where they have a lot of forest, you can feel the air breeze over there. You see that it's very refreshing. But when you come to Accra, you can see the difference. It's because of the pollution within Greater Accra. Achimota forest happens to be the only green belt that tries to absorb this carbon to reduce the health risks. Currently, we are experiencing some pollution, but if we try to touch Achimota forest, the consequence is going to be worse than what we are experiencing now. So that's the environmental part. The second bit is also looking at that what the president is doing is going to have an implication in forest management in Ghana. For instance, when you look at Achimota forest, there are two ways that the forest was acquired. In 1921, government acquired the land and paid compensation. And in 1927, government acquired and did not pay compensation. When you look at maybe a forest reserve like Moli National Park or Hui Forest Reserve, there are forest reserve where government acquired those forest reserve and paid compensation. So the land belongs to the state and the state manages the land. When you go to other forest reserve like the Free Forest Reserve, the Small Forest Reserve, which is made up of about 90% of our forest reserve, government acquires such a land, don't pay compensation, but manage those type of land for the people. In Achimota forest, we have these two scenarios. We have portion of the land where government have paid compensation. We have portion of the land where government have not paid compensation. Now the case is, the portion that government have not paid compensation, the landowners are demanding. The landowners start demanding that those lands should be released to them. And because those lands have been encroached. The point we are trying to make here is that we have similar situation in the various forest reserve, where government have equal no pay compensation and managing the land for the people. And it's legally allowed. That's how most of our forest reserve arrangement is. If government goes ahead to de-gazette the Achimota portion of the forest reserve, we are opening the floodgate for other chiefs and their subject to also demand that their portion of forest reserve should be gazetted. And we all know the chaos that we are going to create. We are talking about more than 200 forest reserves which are in the same circumstance. So for us, we think the decision that the president is taking is going to create a very chaos in forest management in Ghana. So this is the reason why we are asking the president to reconsider his decision.
Earl Opong, I'm grateful for your time. Earlier today, Deputy Lands Minister and the CEO for the Forestry Commission visited the reserve to enable the media actually have full access and appreciation of the state of that facility. The two leaders actually have been speaking to Joy News at the reserve.
Right in the middle of the Achimota forest, you know, we started from the headquarters. We went through where we have the nursery. We came to the areas that we developed in 2017, planting trees, and then we are, this area was planted in 2017, where we've made deliberate effort to plant trees in the forest. So you can see them yourself, what we have been doing here. We have the youth in afforestation workers working here to plant trees. Virtually the most part of the Achimota forest, is made up of shrubs. And then since 2017, we have been planting trees here. You can see the way the trees are arranged in an array. It means that there was, they were planted, they didn't, grow themselves.
So for the one we saw, someone was asking, does it go throughout, or it just gets where?
It goes throughout to the end. And as we move along, you see the other lanes.
I am happy today. I've heard the Obu family on their own have even issued out a statement. Yes, we should understand when government takes land from a particular allodia owner or families, and over years government does not pay compensation. Yes, then you and I know that is not lawful. And because the Constitution states that compensation must be prompt, adequate, and then also timely. So once that is done, once that is the case, then the whole family, after several petitions and then also going through the necessary process, were right in demanding some compensation from all previous governments. Yes, we acted on previous concerns, previous reports by several committees that have been set up by previous government, and then to ensure that even if we are giving them the land, the right thing is done. The right thing is to ensure that if, let's say, we dig asset that portion that have been already returned to them, so that at least now they can have the full use and full benefit of it. But we just did not do that in isolation. But then we added the fact that they must ensure that whatever they do also will not disturb or affect the integrity of the existing adjoining forest.
So what
we are working through now for you to see the extent of the forest, for all Ghanaians to understand that there is no way we are going to give up this forest. Secondly, we do not intend to sell this forest as has been previously stated in the media. But then the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is ensuring that this forest is preserved, and what is left as the forest as we see now will be kept and then also intensified by reforesting it for future generations and for posterity. We'll be working, and then soon we will be entering the zoo. The zoo too have been brought here. There's no way where are we going to have the zoo? The zoo is going to be here. And there's the need for all this development to ensure that at least the ecology here is maintained. You've seen other trees over there. We have Onina, that's a cyber tree, the one there that has also been introduced. This is also cyber. Yes, when we were kids, we used to call it in Kasenka.
And you're still with us here on The Pulse. When we return, we'll talk about the big gathering of African teachers regulatory authorities who are meeting here in Ghana to chart a path for advancing education on the continent. It's all coming up right here on The Pulse. Please stay.